And ready. Greetings, 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 and happy day of the sun. Happy Sunday. I was not able to, unfortunately, give this video a title as planned because there's a specific conversation that is going to be had, whether they like it or not. The initial title that I was going to give my live today was how these evil agents, secret agents, pretty much captivate, excuse me, captively grabs starseed children from birth to adulthood. I unfortunately have to be secretive about that title because clearly they do not want me to talk about this, but I am going to gently uh, talk about this as far as, easing everybody into the conversation. This might or might not be a longer live than what I would usually do. I want everyone who is uh, curious to go on this uh, walk down the rabbit hole with me. This is a live, so emotionally, it can be a little overwhelming. So just walk with me if you are interested. We're going to go into talking about how the assimilation really starts with young starseed children, and that's going to be the focus, if anything, and to our adulthood, and how this starts with preschool and camp. And we're going to also go over the numerology of when the actual quote unquote veil for some of us, I'll say star seeds, began to lift as far as the millennials are concerned. I can't speak for everyone else's generation. They have different stories. I've heard so many different people who have similar experiences as I do. So, what I'm going to do to the best of my ability for just a little while, or as long as Spirit allows me to be up here, is break down to you how this happens with secret evil agents and young starseed souls based off of a truth. This is not based off of a theory or something I read about or that I saw. This is lived experiences that still happen to me today, supernatural experiences in some cases that happen to me today. And I'm going to share it to the best of my abilities. So, what I'm going to do to really create a sacred space, whether you see this live now, rather you will come back to it later and see it on the replay. I'm going to actually take you with me um, if you want to participate in this meditation and journey to a sacred space of consciousness. We are not going to go into this unprepared. We are going to go into a sacred space before I even begin this actual conversation. So, for those joining and for those who will see later, we're about to go into a space called the Sacred Nexus. Come with me. I'm going to start with the drumming. Take a deep breath. Slow, deep breath. Begin your breathing. In. Holding it. Slowly releasing it. This is the introduction to taking you in to the sacred nexus. Come with me. Come into the sacred nexus with me. I want you to imagine yourself on a horse chariot. Doesn't matter. You just see stars, lights. There's about to be a trail. We're going to go on this trail together in a meditative state. We're in this chariot together. White horse leading you to the sacred nexus. The trail, you may see it as light in your mind. It is taking you down the rabbit hole to the sacred nexus. We're almost there. We're going through a tunnel, a brief tunnel. We're almost there. We're going through a bit of a doorway. We've entered a space with green grass and green trees, pine trees. You see it, even if you can't. You're there. You're going to see a bit of a shield, a big bright shield. That is where the sacred nexus exists. That horse is about to enter that sacred shield of light. We have entered a sacred space where you see water streams on each side of you, bright with light. And the horse is galloping upon this water up to a rock where you shall see a bit of a white, powerful lion power animal, or your own personal power animal is ready. Step up off of this chariot. Step onto the rock and let the power and the spiritual shield of your power animal, whatever it looks like, be your white, powerful, bright shield. We're about to come up out of this and into the conversation. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're there. All right. Woo! Welcome to the Sacred Nexus in real time. So, I want to begin to talk about my experiences to the beginning of being a Starseed child in an assimilation that I had no clue from the time I was 4 up until about 20 years old. So, for some of you, this is new information. For some of you, this may be your life and you'd have no idea yet. I was a child, 4 years old. I started preschool. And I remember this was a really kind of like a secretive space almost, the preschool that I was going to. You had to kind of go through like, those neighborhoods, if you went to school like that kind of sat on like those streets and neighborhoods where there's a bunch of like houses and like in the midst of all those houses and like these little trails, there's like a school or, most times. And I went there. It was a very old school. Not going to give out any names. And I just remember I just would get so emotional whenever like my mom would take me there. Like I would cry. I would just like be in a distraught state of mind. And I didn't know why. It was to a point where they would actually have to call my mom back to the school to like really get me to calm down and to just be like that comfort that I needed. And it would go on like that really from the time I was in preschool till about first grade. I'm going to stay on this particular preschool. They also did camp. And it was just like a regular preschool. We colored and we used computer monitors, for just to test out our brain skills. And for me, I just thought it was just school. But what would be a little interesting, and I know for a lot of us this seems like just for school and academics, and of course working with children that have neurodivergence and ADHD and all the good things and bad things about that. But it's way more when you have starseed children, which in most cases those are starseed children. Even if they are neurodivergent, no matter how serious their disability or ability is. So they would do these tests in between classes, and they would, have us on the computer games. And this is really how subconscious programming as an adult, excuse me, as a child going into your adolescent years, this is how they really are beginning to test the brain waves of the starseed child. Because keep in mind, for us millennials, this is the way that they knew that the millennial era would have very highly intelligent children to begin the process of the millennium, and going into the tech generation. This is how they had to start testing our skills ultimately, with the computer systems and technology and things like that. So they would pull us out of class to do those things. We all grew up like that in the 90s and the early 2000s. Like I said, it seems very normal in some cases, right? So I remember that. But I would also do camp, and I don't. For me, I thought this was very normal. I thought all camps did this. I really did. There will be moments in between where each and every one of us, just like at school, they would have us do these certain type of academic classes. Well, not classes, but like these little ways to test our brain waves. And I remember my final time doing camp with these folks, and I remember they all had us get our brain waves tested, and I thought that was very weird at that age. I thought that was a very, very weird thing almost, because I'm like, well, we're at camp, so why are they putting us down? They're putting like the gel and stuff, to put the little attachments. I don't know what they call them, but they'll test our brainwaves with them, and they put the little hat thing on you to test your brainwaves, ask you a few questions, and it was just a very weird thing for me, and I didn't really question it because I was only 12 years old, But that's the the area of consciousness that we begin during the puberty state, and that's they go about this based off of your age and also the numerology of that age. Because see, I was 12 years old. This was the year 2003, so that's about the time where they're really seeing the millennial era. Excuse me, not well, yeah, era, kind of happening, and they wanted to see the advancement also of a lot of the Star Soul children, and so they never would tell me how it went, anything like that. I just let them do it, and they were like, "Okay, so yeah, this is your last year at camp. You can come back as a camp counselor." And I was like, okay." Didn't think nothing about it. I was just kind of bummed out. I was like, well, damn, I want to keep going to camp. Shit, I want to be a kid still. I'm not even 13. Why I got to stop coming here? So, and I remember recognizing some of the other kids that I was at camp with, because we all went to preschool together. Now, see, back in the day when you had these types of situations happen to you, it would always be like a small amount of the children, probably like six of you at most, not even 10. I would say like seven, eight. And that was how it was back in the day, right? So at that point, that's when they are already aware of your brain waves, how they operate, how they work, the timing, the whole thing. So going after that, I would go to the year 2011 at that age. And this is the age, I've already come to talking to my mom about my psychic abilities. My mother, at 10 years old, already letting me know, like, yeah, I know who you are. And it was foretold to me, who you are. And I was already being mentored already by the age of 10 years old, from someone that's a close family member who, was helping me to get through supernatural experiences. I had been having them since I was a child, seeing, you know, ghost, spiritual energies, auras. They came in like colors, and I'll be just sitting on the couch, and I would see like old um, colonial era people just kind of float through sometimes. They might greet you like, hey, what's up, and I would never mention that to my mom because I thought I was gonna get in trouble. I'm only like at that time 6 7 years old. So I had finally opened up to my mom at 10 about these things, the conscious era. So again, fast forwarding to when I'm about 19 going on 20, that I have been on this path of spirituality. I grew up with a very Christian Baptist background, and also Baptist hoodoo. Yes, I did. So I was really well oiled in spirituality because that was my life, is my life. So this is when I had to start to discover that it was just bigger than spirituality, reading some psalms, going to church, being able to see spirits, being psychic, and all that good stuff, being a medium and all that stuff. Um, I remember I went to Connecticut for a family reunion with my family, and we had just gotten back. I was again 20 years old at this point. I've been doing my Bible studies and all that good stuff to kind of get myself kind of, on my spiritual path. We're subconsciously programmed at a very young age, especially in Black culture, to, go through the Christ thing. That's just how we are. And that's just how we were brought up. And I'm very grateful for that because that was kind of like my, well oiled shaping and molding for me at that age. And so I remember we had came back, and for some reason, I can't almost explain. I remember how it went. I remember the date. This is about maybe June-ish, maybe July-ish. I can't remember, but that area. I went to the eye doctors. Oddly enough, went to the eye doctors. Not feeling anything, not noticing anything, just a simple eye exam. And I remember they did like the test that they do when they put your chin up to the thing there to start to, check your pupils for like glaucoma and all the good stuff. And I remember we were done. And I kid you not, like I started noticing like a lot of people walking back and forth, back and forth, back and forth in the hallway, like old people. But the way it looked to me was a little bit weird. Like it old people don't really move kind of that fast. You know what I mean? Like it went from just seeing little grandma walking, grandpa walking, then next thing you know, people got like a cast on their arms and like a little leg brace, but it seemed like it was kind of going a little like a door, kind of like people are just in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. And I was like, that's kind of weird. Now, that's the part where the doors have been open, the veil, so to speak, this veil that everybody could be talking about. So that was weird to me. I felt so weird. Now, if you all heard the last live I did, where that it's a weird feeling you start to get that makes you feel like inside out. This is the assimilation beginning. Huh? So I get to the front door. I think I was waiting for my family to come get me. And then I looked up at the sky. I looked up at the sky, and it was like a kind of crack that you see in your roof. It literally looked like a crack in the sky. And half of it was very bright, sunny. The other half was very dim and very like cloudy. Now, to some people, that's very normal. We can go into the solar activity that happens. We could talk about a solar eclipse that we may or may not be aware of that's happening somewhere. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But that was not the case. And see, sometimes when this is happening to you consciously, nobody really can notice it at all. And this is how psychosis begins. And this is how it gets frightening. And especially if you're someone who uses recreational drugs like marijuana, this is how it really gets to easily happen, just like that. And I was looking and I said, this is very odd. This feels very weird. I feel weird. I feel odd. And I'm not going to get into the specifics I'm just going to focus on this is the assimilation that I'm entering in at this point, and the level of consciousness that I'm in, what I am seeing for me. And this is how we unfortunately can get diagnosed with things, right? But again, this is the assimilation. Now remember, in the Matrix, Neo is going through an assimilation. Neo's in the office. Neo starts to get that phone call and shit is getting weird. He feels weird. Neo is seeing stuff that is, in the eyes of a psychiatrist, you're having psychosis, you're having an hallucination, you need some medication. So anyhow, I'm in the assimilation. I'm like Neo right here. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. So that evening, we go to a party. My cousin's giving like a little fish fry thing. And I remember I was feeling so weird the whole time. And I just felt like I was seeing gray. It was like a weird time for me. It just seemed like everybody in the party was like mixed up with like people that she knew, that I knew, but it also seemed a little extra crowded than most people might have been able to pay attention to. It just seemed like there was a little bit more company that other people would not notice. But again, I'm in this state of consciousness, and again, this door has been opened, so everybody's mingling. It gets to a point where I really need to go outside and I need to get some air. I go outside, and I kid you all not, it was a point in my consciousness that something told me, like, you can do just about anything you want right now. You can go to any one of these car doors in this parking lot, unlock it, open that door, and if you could drive, you could take this car and just do it because you just can. That's a level of consciousness coming into your mind, letting you know this is not a real world you're in. And if anybody who has been through this experience, they can tell you this is happening to them. I felt like I could get into any car in that parking lot and drive it and just do it in that moment, because we are so programmed. We think that we bought this car, this is our car, we got our license, this is mine. But if that dog whistle hits your ass real quick, you wouldn't even know what car is yours, because it's your program, it's your assimilation. So I don't even know whose car door I began to even open, but I know I opened some doors. And I just remember my family coming into the parking lot, and they just kind of looked at me a little strange, and they were like, yeah, we got to get home. So I get to my mom's, well, our apartment, and my cousin, I remember she gave me a bottle of wine. And I remember sitting on my little mattress that I used to sleep on, because, we didn't have a lot of money. And I was drinking a little bit of that wine because I'm just like, shit feels really weird right now. I'm sitting there, and this is when I started to experience quantum jumping. For those who really are going to believe me or have experienced it or are curious, this is when I first experienced quantum jumping. And I was sitting on the bed because we didn't stay long. It was probably like 9 o'clock when we got to the party. So I remember I'm sitting on my bed, and we had gotten home no later than like midnight, maybe not even 1 o'clock. So I'm sitting there, I'm drinking some wine, and I just remember just kind of being like, what is going on? It feels super weird. And next thing I realize, my mom opens the door, and I look outside, and the sun is up. And I'm like, I know well that I know I started drinking a little bit, and for someone who's looking at this with a practical mindset, they're gonna say, well, you probably just was drunk. You probably, was this, you were that. No, I remember it. I sat there, I had a bottle of wine, and I don't even think I drank it fully. And I just remember my mom came in the room, and it was sun up. I heard the birds chirping, everything. Like, it was really happening. And I'm like, wow, I feel like now I'm really in a real frightening state of mind, because what is happening to me? Why did it feel like the time just jumped, literally? And at the time, I could not explain, what was happening to me. And I just would have weird moments when time was just like jumping, 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 jumping. And that's because this thin veil, this is the year 2011, this is a 4 year, the year of structure, stability, and kind of molding, right? So that's when the veils. I can't speak for everybody, but I've heard other stories about people talking about the year 2011 being that time where you start to see this quantum jumping more, the era of the oh my god, what is it called? Mandela effect. When Nelson Mandela died, and everybody was like, "I thought he'd been died." That's that year, 2011, because other people started to experience the Mandela effect just like me. I didn't know what it was called, and I did not know how to explain what was happening to me. Right. So fast forwarding to like the end of August, and I just would get sick. You know what I'm saying? I was like vomiting, and it just life just was kind of really weird for me in that year. And finally, like that energy would like lift up off me, and life started to feel like it was prior to me experiencing all these things. Because believe it or not, I'm keeping out a bit of a gap on purpose for you all, because if I tell you every nook and every cranny, it's going to take away the conversation, and take away from what you need to be aware of how these agents, right, are really already dog whistling you. They're already ready. So right now, what I'm giving you is the breakdown of how I began, experiencing these things when the veils were lifted, the quantum jumping that really started happening at a higher speed in the year 2011, year of the four. So within those times, I started to have supernatural experiences that were in my face. People that you think look like me and you, and they are really demons. Some of them are galactic. Some of them, pose as doctors, psychiatrists, patients, neighbors, and things like that. I experienced those things, just a little taste of it, but really more so, I was experiencing the doors being open and the quantum jumping, which would ultimately make me feel very weird. And I did not understand why I was feeling it and nobody else was. So, anyhow, fast forward to 2012. Like I said, life goes on. We're in a new place that we're living in. And I remember I was in my bedroom, and it was like midnight. And back then, I used to do a lot of yoga stretches and poses and certain exercises before I went to bed. I was in that good shape era. I was skinty, and I was having fun trying to stay in shape. And I remember I went and got in the bed, and I kid you not, it was like I heard a dog whistle. I know that sounds funny, but I legit heard a dog whistle. Just the way, like, when a person is, who has to do that with a dog, they blow a whistle. I heard it. I felt it. And, like, I raised up on my bed. I legit heard the dog whistle. And, that funny feeling started happening again. Now I'm at the age of, let's see, 2012, 20, 21. I would say about 21. So I'm up. I'm not sleeping. And I'm up. Like, I don't get no sleep. And I mean, for like 48 hours, I wasn't sleeping. And again, I'm not going to get into the specifics of what I was going through, because, again, it's just going to take away from what you are hearing me talk about. So, fast forwarding to when this assimilation that I'm still in is happening, I begin to have the psychosis happening. I'm feeling paranoid. I'm feeling like people are trying to kill me. I want you all to hear this. Those of you who still use recreational drugs off the streets. I can't speak for dispensary, but for y'all who buy drugs off of the streets, I'm keep it real. Like, I got to get a little raw. When we are riding around in the hood, we riding around to the dope boy, and we, picking up our little medicine. You don't know who those people are, right? They may appear to you as just the dope boys in the hood. Rather, they are African American, Latin, Caucasian. They might appear to you as the dope boys in the neighborhood. They are not the dope boys in the neighborhood. Those are secret agents. And when you are buying your medicine, you got to be careful. And this is where discernment is important. And this is where you have to use your intuition. Because back then I was young, we just chilling. And we can blame it on the alcohol, we can blame it on the dope, we can blame it on all the things, but I know what I experienced. And what occurred to me when I'm getting dog whistled, because this is way after this, I don't get any sleep. And I have to be I'm in this assimilation. And what I'm gonna do for y'all is focus on the assimilation and not where I was. Let's just say I was somewhere in an assimilation with younger children, kind of like camp again. And back then, 2012, it was when the children were in these assimilations with the agents, because I had been captured, I didn't get any sleep, and they got me. They came and they got me, and I don't remember anything because I went to sleep. I remember I woke up in a wheelchair, and I'm in this assimilation with these agents. This is a real story, and in your family's minds, they're also in an assimilation, and sometimes it's not even your blood family at all. Sometimes it's the agents themselves, dressed up like your family. You have been captured. You are not in the usual real world. You are in the assimilation of in the state of your consciousness. It is a real moment that is happening. You probably really are not actually seeing your real loved ones at this time. And even if you are seeing your real loved ones, you don't even know when they're coming in and when the agent or the shapeshifter, uh, ultimately the shapeshifters, are beginning to come in. Because you have no clue how to tell reality from the assimilation. So I'm in the assimilation with these other children, and it's only like three of us, and the rest of the people and demons and entities that are in there, they're dressed up and walking around, and they would allow this to happen. You have an old man in one room, he's ringing the bell back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And all of us children who are very sensitive, I would say, we're like crying and going back and forth through the hallway. We're crying. We don't know what to do because we have no idea what's happening. We don't know what's going on. And these are the Starseed children. This is how we are dog whistled as our adolescent years are happening. So we're being dog whistled, and so we're crying, and then you have these these demons. These are real life demons, and they're in human form most times. And they come up to you and they start hugging you and touching your face, and they're laughing at you, and they're dressed up like a patient, or they're just you're in a simulation. You're there. There's nothing you can do. And then you have the demons that really want to torture you. You can't sleep at night, and they're walking up and down the hallway. Some of them are, singing and laughing songs and saying things to you. This one guy would come up to me and he would like speak in riddles. Like legit, this man will come up to me and he would speak in riddles, and I would start crying. And some of the people in there they would just laugh at me because they know I've been caught. And these are the people that we trust. These are people that we trust that have this assimilation set up for us. These are agents, and they've been doing this for many years, and they get to have a comfortable place where they can do things like this to you, and there's nothing nobody can do about it because, again, you have not secured your consciousness. You have not begun to barely understand what's happening. Yeah, this is a real thing that happened to some of us and still is happening. So after this assimilation has happened, I've experienced seeing demons coming up to me, laughing. The one night I woke up, it was like 2 in the morning, and I'm walking down this hallway in this place they have us in this assimilation, and I seen the one girl. I kid you not, she's speaking in very esoteric tongues. This is not a tongues that you hear at church. She's speaking in a certain language, and the boy. He's just kind of like all that type of shit. And I'm serious. This is real. I can't make nobody believe it. You have to experience it, sadly, and pray to God that you have your mind back in place to even believe that it happened to you. So she's speaking in tongues, and he's just shaking, like all the things. And like I go up to speak with someone, like, listen, I'm freaking out. Like, when can I go home? Like, where am I? And they looked at me with an evil look in their eyes. they were, you know, and she looked at me and said, "Go back and lay down." And I was like, "Oh fuck!" Like I legit in that moment, I was like, "I must have died. Like I must have went to hell." I'm serious. I was like, I had to have died and went to hell, and I'm just like in purgatory. That's what I felt like. And finally, I came out of the assimilation. They allowed me to come out of it and enter back into my real life assimilation, the assimilation that was designed for me. And for many years, I would kind of just be in my program, doing what they wanted me to do, living my assimilation the way that they wanted me to. I get to do, therapy, psychiatry, just living a normal life. But in between those things, I knew what happened to me. I knew that that was a real assimilation, and that it wasn't in my, usual assimilation. It was different. And finally, like I wouldn't have an experience like that. But however, on a spiritual level, I am a star seed, so I'm born with these abilities. So I always have supernatural experiences. I'm living the religion that they want me to. But again, I've always been a curious soul. I'm always going to read about esoteric knowledge, metaphysics. I'm always going to do that. That's just naturally who I was, even when I was, walking in those religions that they wanted me to. So I lived a regular life, and what would help me to come out of the assimilation, because also in the midst of those assimilations are, I don't want everybody to get so scared. Walk with me, this is real. I'm not joking around. In the middle of the assimilation, you do have your spirit guides. I forgot to add that in there. You do have your spirit guides in the assimilation. They are there. It's not all bad. It's not all bad. You do have your spirit guides. You do have your other agents to be there for you. You have dwarfs that are there to guide you, to help you. This is really real, and they pose again in the assimilation that you're usually in as like doctors, psychiatrists, whatever, social workers, peer counselors. These are your spirit guides and guardian angels in physical form. So they were there with me. So again, once I was at the age, and remember the numerology in 2012, that was the year of a five. Was it? Yeah, that was a year of a five, and we all know five is transformation, changes, a little bit of tough changes, but changes ultimately. So again, we're adding up why these years in numerology are to happen in these assimilations. Because see, this is not a conversation for everybody. For the one viewer, you dope because you can really handle what I'm talking, right? Uh, 2012, that was a 5 year that happened to me. So let's fast forward to where the year 2013 is not too long after. I had to start living in another different type of assimilation that had to activate me. I'm not going to get into details because this has to come sometimes into relationships that kind of get you activated and motivated into uncoding and decoding. These are all pieces of the puzzle to get you to uncode and to get you to activate if you are able to. Because even though I've gotten to this space, God forbid, at any moment, if they want to, they can just dog whistle my black ass again. So when I hit 30, uh, it happened. This is going to happen to some of you all who are listening. Unfortunately, some of you, every 10 years, this is happening to Starseed souls because they have our brain waves documented. They know how to turn on that dog whistle. They know when it's time to come and get your ass. So the assimilation for the third time would happen to me at the age of 30. That's a numerology. That's the three. That's things coming into alignment, right? So that's alignment. And everything is kind of coming full circle. That's a great age of the 30s. And so the assimilation happened to me again, which is in the other video, my other live video that I spoke about how agents use mind magic to capture you and put you in these assimilations. And this is actually all connected to everything that I've been talking about because I know for a small amount of you, you're not going to get this. And for a small amount of you, you are going to get this. And a large amount of you will kind of do what it do. So at 30, I went through another assimilation. And this time I saw more children in this assimilation. They have more children than I saw in my beginning. And these are the Starseed children. And this is how they started to kind of get more of uh, the other children after millennials, like our kids, or our siblings and people that came behind us, like those generations. And those kids, it was like packed to the brim with like a bunch of them, like more than I've ever seen. And see, in this assimilation, it wasn't as many demonic forces. I will say there was a vampire. She was in there. Real cool. Real cool vampire. I don't, listen, this is, y'all want to hear this for real? Vampires in today's time, they don't go in the middle of the night sucking your blood. They have to get you in these assimilations, and they have to get your blood in a way that doesn't look so aggressive. And, nobody's, can you imagine seeing that shit in broad daylight? They're not going to do that. She was a vampire though, real cool. And they had to get what they had to get from out of these kids and me. And this time they do things differently with music and audio to kind of test the children, giving them gym to move their muscles around more. But ultimately, it's still a newer version of what I was going through. This is different assimilation. So, this is when I finally figured the fuck out how these motherfucking people were able to do this to me and other Starseed children. So I was out of the assimilation, and I would get a letter and a phone call from my old preschool. And my old preschool got into contact with me, and they were able to do like some questions. And I was like, wow, okay. And they offer you money, right? They offer you money, and they offered to pay me. Ultimately, they offered to pay me. I'm not going to tell y'all the amount. They offered to pay me because I know this is real deep for some of you who are going to hear this, and I know that if your mind is not elevated, you're not going to believe this. You have to experience this, and if you don't, be blessed. So they gave me a price, and I was curious about that. I was like, okay. So long story short, I meet up with the person who is supposed to come pick me up and come get me to do these neurological testing, these questionnaires. Uh, so we enter into my old preschool. We go into the building, that little secret place that I told you all about at the top of this talk. For those who will come back and for those who will see this on the replay, I came back to that space where I used to go to school, that little small space. And they asked me questions, like they said, probably about like 45 questions. I think actually, no, 200 questions for about 45 minutes. You get a bunch of questions. Then they come to your home and they take a piece of your hair, they take your blood, your DNA, to see your development, to see ultimately where you have advanced as a star seed soul. Because again, magic is neurological, and that's alchemy. And I don't remember the third thing we had to do, but it was real simple. And they paid me my coins, and I had to go home to my mom's, because I had my own place at the time. I asked my mother some questions. I said, "Mom, what the fuck is going on? Like, why are they offering money? Have you ever known about this type of shit?" And she kept it 100 and said, "These people came to me since before you started preschool. They did it to me. They asked me the questions. They paid me the money." See, when you are melanated, I'm going to say it, they kind of get you a little differently. They know that you're in poverty. They know they've designed your assimilation in poverty to look the way it looks, to be the way it is. And they caught my mom at a time where she was really, financially down, and they know this on purpose. The black experience is an assimilation naturally, and they got her, and they got me, and that's how it happened, and they know who she is. So I started to kind of investigate, and I did my research, and just threw them by everything I talked about in my last video. That if you see about how mind magic is used, I started doing my investigation on a lot of these programs that we went to school for, and what they do and how they test people if you have kids and all these things. This is in the DNA. This is in the starseed DNA. And they start to get the blood from the parents. Like they still will pick up the phone and call me and be like, "Oh, hey, what's up? We know that you've done our other tests. You got children? No? Okay, well, if you ever get to that place where you got kids, we're gonna be looking for you. Okay, keep on looking." So anyhow, that's when I discovered what was going on with these assimilations and how it was. And it doesn't look all so dark. It's just this is the real Matrix. This is really what it looks like and what it is. And again, only a short amount of people are going to be able to compute what I'm talking about. And that more than likely 99% of you have not experienced it, and you might never. So it ain't for you. I'm not up here for followers to follow me because I'm trying to impress you. I'm giving it to you raw like this so that you can be aware, right? So it's not for everybody. And anyhow, so I figured this stuff out, and that was that. They still, find their ways, like I talked about in the other video, how I got crossed up. And again, to a lot of you that do magic, and I'm talking about don't have no idea what you're doing. And for you who think you know what you're doing, you don't know anything. And I'm not talking about in a competitive way. I'm talking about in a way of ignorance and not understanding what you're doing. This is why I also dropped a video yesterday that says, "Who's the devil?" Check that out on your own. But this is the reality of how they get you from the time you're a star seed child, and they test your parents' DNA, and they know who you are. So you can be scared to get an ancestry DNA all you want to, but they're going to get your DNA no matter what. Shit, when you go to the doctors, like, you are not going to not be caught by these people, you know? And it's just part of it. Why I dropped this? I mean, because some of you are going to experience this and you might not get a chance to talk about it like me. You may not be mentally okay to talk about it like me. Sounds fun and easy, doesn't it? It's not. Now we're looking at the numerology when it caught me at 30, and that was the year 22, and that was a 6 year. See, that's when things start to come into harmony. And those children, they really loved me a lot in that assimilation. They know what it is. They're aware that they're in assimilation like I am. And they were very sweet, and I was able to be there for those kids. And I'm so grateful that I was able to be there for those kids. That was a 6 year. And now we're in the year 2026, a 1 year. This is why everything is now coming full circle, and we're kind of not forcing ourselves to learn about spirituality. We're not forcing ourselves to uncode. Everything has already been spoken. In the beginning, there was the Word, and then the Word made flesh. All is in the mind. The universe is mental. This is the year 2026. If you are really, even if you don't believe in spirituality and this is not your kind of thing, you'll start to feel and notice just on a human level that things just don't feel as forced as they once did. You really genuinely feel like you have a structure, you have an order, and you know yourself, you know your name. And that's a beautiful place to be. But unfortunately, some of these experiences are still going to happen. And this is why I drop these readings here and there for you. I'm not just reading cards. I'm not just a psychic. I'm not just a medium. I'm not just, this is deeper than what people will ever think. And for some folks that get up on here playing and want to bullshit you and just light candles, talk about magic, have these deep conversations, that's beautiful. That's wonderful. And I want y'all to keep doing that. I'm not competing against you. But I also want you to be prepared for when you're really living these lived experiences. Because these things really happened to me and they're still happening. This is not phony, and it can only be felt by those who have experienced it. For some of you, you may never experience it, and I'm really happy for you. But for some people who have been through this, like me, it has happened. And it may happen to your kids. Be careful when you don't have money. Be careful with everything, with advancing your children, advancing yourself. I'm not talking about learning too much, but be careful. Be very, very careful. Don't share everything with everybody. Everybody talks about discernment. Break down the metaphysics of those words like discern. To discern is to be connected to the God consciousness. That's an authority. That's a sure thing. And you can't use judgment or logic. That's something that you really have to, I'm going to say it, earn. Those experiences I earned. And it may not mean nothing to some of you right now, but it will. If you are meant to be here, if you have seen this, it's going to mean something to you at some point. But anyhow, I digress. This is just one introduction to who I am. I am the Starseed Soul. I am known to be a psychic medium outside of this here program, here in this space, in this realm, in this assimilation, and other things that I cannot speak about because I do not have the umbrella of protection outside of what I do to speak about it like some of these famous folk do. So therefore, I will not tell you every single nook and cranny of who I am. And clearly, this is, when people are up here doing these videos, you do need to get to know who you're talking to, what they're all about. And this is the way for some of you who are interested in knowing what I'm about, who I am. And because I could not give an introduction, I probably won't, unfortunately, get a lot of people right away. But I still know I will captivate some folks, even if it's 5 people. Many are called, chosen are few. And if you got this far, you were supposed to see this video, right? I could not even give an introduction to this video because they knew what I was getting ready to drop. And they knew that if I put a title there, it would captivate more of you. But no matter what, it's not for everybody anyway. Somebody's going to see this. Apparently, 4 people like that. The number of 4, structure, stability, harmony, right? So I digress. I want you all, if you are interested, to continue to do your own thing. I'm not leading you to me, I'm leading you to you. All right. So till the next time, happy Sunday. And when the time comes, I'll be back.